so in Southern Florida, I'm sure you guys are you guys familiar with, well, let me ask you first. Are you familiar with Jen Perelman, who's running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that election is on Tuesday, folks. So get out there, and I do encourage you all to support Jen Perelman, who is trying to unseat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This happened the other day over the weekend. So a Jen Perelman volunteer was allegedly shoved. Here, let's hear what she has to say.
What's up, TikTok? I really need your help to blow this up. Pretty much, my name is Martina Velasquez. I'm from Broward County, Florida, and I've been a political advocate since I was a child. Right now, I'm campaigning for Jen Perelman in District 23. Jen Perelman is up against a monster, and her name is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And I want to tell y'all about my experience with Debbie yesterday. I'm not only a child at the age of 16, but I'm also a constituent and an activist, and I'm very specific, a climate activist. When I was handing out palm cards to voters and explaining how Debbie was not endorsed by any climate activists other than the Sierra Club, which is historically racist, she ended up shoving me more than once and calling me a liar to my face. This is my congresswoman, and that's exactly why we gotta get her out. I have 2 days until election day. Now I'm begging you, please spread this and vote Jen. We need change. What's up?
Quite a story. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to be fair and say allegedly, because they didn't have any video evidence of this. So, but I mean, I believe her. I don't think she would lie about that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I tend to believe her as well. Just given the track record.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like Debbie Wasserman Schultz, would that surprise anybody that she would do something like that? Like, not in the slightest. And you know what?
It almost kind of reminds me of why, or whatever that Joe Biden thing was. You know, it's like people just flip. You know, any sort of pressure.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And were you guys impressed? I mean, that's pretty. And you guys can probably relate to this because you guys had a lot of success very young. And that's pretty impressive. 16 years old. She's out there doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, actually, as I was watching that, I was like, I actually do have a lot of hope and admiration for the younger generation. These Zoomers really, are leagues beyond where we were at 16,
I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, someone tweeted the other day, they were like, you millennials better not forget about us Zoomers. And I retweeted it and I was like, we love you guys. It's not going to happen. Honestly, we just want you to take over now. We'll just help you. Like, well, like you guys can take over now. We can just, because I mean, you kind of look at our bench, so to speak, and you see people like Pete Buttigieg and you see people like Joe Kennedy, and you want to just be like, you know what? We'll just skip our turn.
We'll skip this
one. We'll be the creatives and the artists, and we'll just help you guys take over. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
But so yeah, that's the one inspiring thing. 16 years old, she's doing that. Do you guys think the voting age should be 16?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do. I think at 16, I think you're totally capable of making that decision. I would be fine with that.
Any 16-year-old that would get themselves to a polling place, I think has a point of view and probably knows what their interests are,
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually more controversial than the three of us would make it seem, though. Like, I mean, I've felt that way for a long time, and I've been vocal about it. I was like, I think the voting age should be 16. And one of the things that really made me feel that way, I used to do a lot of colleges, like perform at a lot of colleges. Did you guys ever do colleges, or did you just? Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did you guys do like NACA conferences and stuff like that even?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, we've played a lot of college campuses over the years, and in the early days, we did a whole, what was it, 1998, 1999 campus invasion, MTV campus invasion tour.
Oh, that's right.
Where, I mean, we played, it was like 2 months of college campuses every night. So
when I would do colleges, like I was billed as a political act, which is actually these days becoming more and more of a rare thing. But you know, I would do a Q&A after every time, and I would always ask, like, you know, who's going to go out and vote, because a lot of times it was like election years when I would get booked the most, and the kids that wouldn't raise their hands, I'd be like, hey, just out of curiosity, why? And 100% of the time, it was because I'm not old enough. And
Right.
that was one of the things that really, I was like, these are engaged, active, young people. And, you know, guess what? I get it. At 16, you're not old enough to be sent to war, but you're voting for the people who might try to send you to war in 2 years. And if
Right.
you're old enough to drive a vehicle, you're old enough to cast a vote.
I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, I think that, you know, looking on the bright side of it, you know, what this particular 16-year-old has gotten right is direct action. You know, I mean, I know she's working on a campaign, but it seems like she's a, you know, climate activist, and you know, I think that that's something that, I mean, even if it's something as silly as these, you know, these kids that booked all the tickets to the Donald Trump rally, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, direct action is, you know, in my opinion, more effective than voting for, you know, representative politicians anyways. So I'm glad to see that they're at least, you know, taking that into their hands, because I wasn't doing direct action at 16, that's for sure.
I wasn't doing anything at 16. I wasn't, I mean, I had no political opinions at all. I just wasn't aware of it. I played in a little garage band. We weren't as successful as you guys, but I played in a little garage band, and I wanted girls to like me, and that was all I did at 16. Like, that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it took me till my mid to late 30s to become radicalized. So
really,
I'm way behind. So it's nonetheless, it's very refreshing to see you know, a lot of actual action from these kids, because I ultimately think that that's more important than anything, you know.
I think so too. I mean, I think that, you know, and I tweeted this recently. I was like, if you think we can just vote our way out of this and do nothing else, you're crazy. Like, it's going to take it's going to take forming alliances in communities. It's going to take a general strike. It's going to take a rent strike. It's going to take, you know, mobilizing different cause-based initiatives. Like you mentioned, climate activism. It's going to take activism in other fronts too, picking a cause, getting in your lane. It's going to take, you know, forming coalitions. Some people are going to run for office. Other people are going to do direct action, and you got to like take your city back. It's going to take all those things and nothing less.
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at just, you know, the past couple of months, while we haven't moved, you know, nearly far enough, I mean, you know, more sort of results have come from, you know, people being in the streets and fighting back than they have in the past, you know, 60 years of electoral politics, you know. So granted, it needs to go way farther, but, you know, the concessions that we have gotten, you know, have come from people, you know, outraged in the streets, basically.
Yeah.
And organized, you know.
Well, what are you hoping as far as like the future of organization goes? Like, where do you want to see things kind of pivot next?
I mean, you know, I've definitely, I think the bottom line is that, you know, in whatever way is right for you, you know, get involved and organize. So I think there's a lot of different ways of doing that. You know, whether it's, you know, through unions at your work, you know, organizing your people at work, joining, you know, any number of different socialist organizations, or, you know, there's all kinds of different organizations out there, and you know, I think you got to find your place that you feel comfortable and join and get your feet on the ground and do work. And you know, the more that happens, the more there's the possibility for alliances between, you know, organizations and consciousness, you know, amongst everyone. And you know, I think that's where I don't know that there's any one answer, you know, like,
sure, of course.
to like, okay, well, we're just going to start this third party, and build that up. Like, that's great. I'm glad, but like, it can't just be that, it's got to be organization from, by the masses, basically. And, I feel like whatever makes the most sense for you is the best, is the best thing to do. Definitely, Twitter is important, but getting off Twitter and hitting the streets is a lot more important,
Now you're just talking crazy, John. I don't know if I can go there. Max, what do you think?
Well, Sweet Pea, as I call him, John, is responsible in large part for radicalizing me to the extent that I have been. But yeah, I'm I'm a single dad that does an awful lot of retweeting. That's kind of the extent of my action. But yeah, I would like to see similar levels of people hitting the streets for the M4A cause, and like really being unrelenting about that. And I think that that we'll probably see it, but just out of sheer suffering, but yeah.
Well, I think that a lot of people are, and more people are realizing this. About 70% of the American public wants Medicare for all now, and I think it's so like just glaringly apparent that if we didn't have healthcare tied to employment, everything else would be so much more attainable. Like I'm for a general strike. That is infinitely harder when for so many people in this country, their healthcare is tied to their job.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And not to mention, what unionizing, what unions do exist. They spend 90% of their time fighting for their healthcare benefits, whereas, if we could just get that out of the equation and just make it a human right, then unions would be able to go to the table and bargain for higher wages and, whatever sort of actions that are actually going to help these, working people, not just getting them, the best shitty healthcare plan that they can get,
So I guess in closing, before we move on here, shout out to Martina. That's awesome that you're doing that. Thanks for being a climate activist. Thanks for volunteering for Jen. And Jen Perelman, the election's tomorrow, gen2020.com. I know we're not big electoral politics enthusiasts right now on this panel, but if Jen Perelman can unseat unseating Deborah Wasserman, I would love to see that too. I'd love to see it too. So go Jen Perelman, gen2020.com.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and